learning about Finland, the happiest country in the world.
Is that because Santa's their president?
Finland's political system is actually pretty similar to ours, except for they also have a prime minister in addition to a president. The biggest difference is they're a multi-party system rather than a two-party system.
Oh, I got it. They're so happy because everyone in the Nordic countries is crazy rich.
That's not entirely true. In Finland, income inequality is just lower than it is in the United States, and that's mostly due to higher taxes and the collective wage bargaining system.
How are they so happy if they get taxed so much then?
In Finland, their high taxes go directly to their generous welfare system, which directly benefits the citizens through things like healthcare and schooling.
Oh, because they make fins, like for swimming.
The Gini coefficient is a single number that measures how unequally wealth or income is divided among a population. It runs from 0 to 100. A score of 0 means everyone earns the exact same amount of money, which is commonly referred to as a line of perfect equality. A score of 100 means that one person has all the money and everyone else has nothing. Every real country falls somewhere between these two extremes. Imagine 10 people win a $1,000 lottery together. In a fair world, everyone walks away with $100, which would be a Gini score of 0. Perfect equality. But instead, one person grabs the ticket first and claims it's mostly theirs. So they take $630. The remaining 9 people have to share the leftover $370. Some people get $60, some people get $30, and a couple people get $10. Everyone got the prize money, just not in the same way. If we calculate the Gini coefficient of the $1,000 being unevenly split between these 10 people, it would come out to be around 63, which is the current Gini of South Africa and is usually considered to be the highest Gini coefficient in the world right now. Now, if we were to take that same example of $1,000 being split unevenly between 10 people and shift the numbers so that the Gini would reflect that of the United States and Finland, it would look something like this.
Finland ranked 131st globally with a Gini coefficient of 26.8.
The US ranks 41st globally with a Gini coefficient of 45, which is 68% higher than Finland.
In Finland, the homicide rate in 2023 was 1 for every 100,000 people.
In 2022, in the US, the homicide rate was 6.3 people out of every 100,000.
The US tax system is built on the idea that lower taxes on capital and investment stimulate growth. The assumption being that wealth at the top will eventually trickle down through investment and job creation. In simpler terms, in America, if I invest $100 in your business and I make $50 off that investment, I will pay a lower tax rate on that $50 I made because I invested it into a business. The lower tax rate is supposed to incentivize people to invest. The system structurally favors people who already have wealth because a wealthy person has the means to invest large amounts of money that the average person doesn't.
Finland starts from the premise that taxation is the mechanism through which society collectively funds shared well-being. Taxes aren't seen as government overreach, but as the price of a functioning equal society. The narrower gap between capital and labor taxation reflects the ideological commitment to not only privilege wealth over work, but Finland's progressive income tax is steeper than the US. Top earners pay significantly higher marginal rates, but crucially, the middle class also pays more, funding universal services everyone uses.
One of the major problems we have is that, if you make your income from, say, investments, you pay a lower percentage of that income than if you make it from working a job in which you exchange your labor for salary or for income. And that, to me, morally does not make a lot of sense. But I think even worse than that, just in terms of the economic reasoning behind it, when people have to work for their income, that's a major cost, all right? You're giving up massive amounts of time that you then can't spend with your family, you can't spend doing things that you enjoy. So you're basically making something that is already very costly, even more costly. Whereas I'm sorry, if you make money by moving money that you already have around into different investments in a passive sense, that is not costly. That is not hard. That is in fact very easy. And so the idea that a higher tax rate on that would disincentivize people to anywhere near a degree that we would be worse off if we did that, I don't think the evidence supports that.
Excellent. Another day of paying my workers as little as possible. Nothing can stop me now.
Sir, here for 15 years and I'm still making minimum wage.
And what are you gonna do about it? Quit? Good luck finding another job that pays you better. Now get out of my sight.
I guess he's right.
Hello, I represent all 200 workers here at this company, and we have talked to the government and we have prepared a 47-page document on why we should get raises.
Excuse me, all 200 of you did this?
Yep, including the janitors. They had some very reasonable requests.
But you can't interfere with the natural negotiations of employer and employees.
Well, according to our document, markets left alone produce unequal outcomes, and the state collective institutions exist to correct that. We are prepared to strike indefinitely. We have a strike fund. We have community support, and we have legal protected bargaining rights.
Fine. Fair wages, better hours, what do you want?
Parental leave. Fine. Subsidized lunch. Fine.
Whoa, how'd you do that?
You just have to stop negotiating alone. Workers organizing together in Finland is viewed as a legitimate and necessary counterbalance to corporate power. In America, workers often negotiate alone against corporations, and in this turn widens the wage gap from the bottom up. In Finland, we don't like that.
I want better civil infrastructure.
I want to roll back environmental policies.
I want to forgive student loans.
Lower taxes!
Post-game interview with our game winner. How did you win that game?
I hit harder than the other guy.
What can I do if I want to play?
Well, you don't get to play, you get to watch, and you get to pick a side every 4 years.
That'll be all.
I want lower taxes for small businesses.
I want lower taxes for the middle class.
I'll only agree if student debt relief is part of the policy.
We need a coalition agreement if we want this tax policy to be real.
We have to talk about student loans first.
It's Monday. I have to go back to school.
Schools in Finland on average get almost $11,000 per student in public funding. The national literacy rate in Finland is also 99.5%.
In the US, public schools receive approximately $9,000 in public funding per student. The literacy rate is 79%.
In Finland, being a teacher is seen as prestigious as being a doctor. Most teaching positions in Finland only have a 10% acceptance rate. To even apply, applicants must have a master's degree and complete pediatrical studies.
In the US, teachers only need to obtain a bachelor's degree and not a master's degree. 1 in every 8 teaching positions is unqualified or empty in the US.
Only 2% of the schools in Finland are private, and private schools in Finland are different than what there are in the US. Private schools in Finland are funded by the government and free for students. Most of the private schools in Finland are religious or language schools. All the public schools are funded equally by the Finnish government, making their quality even.
Public schools in the US are funded by local tax money. What this means is that richer areas tend to produce better education, while poorer areas tend to produce worse education. 17% of schools in the US are private, and private schools are not funded by local tax money or government money in general.
Absolutely. So whether it be education, whether it be infrastructure, whether it be other areas such as support for housing or energy development, I absolutely think that there is a role for government to play beyond what it is currently playing, particularly in areas like healthcare, which are subject to what we call market failures, which is where the market does not efficiently allocate society's resources to their most productive uses.
I think it should definitely be more affordable, because right now it causes a lot of stress among different people because they may not be able to afford different things like public transportation or healthcare. For example, if someone were to get injured, they might not want to seek help for it because of how much a financial burden it might be.
Why can't I get free public health care? In the US, public health care is very limited. That's why 66.5% of bankruptcies are caused by medical bills.
In Finland, the maximum anyone can spend on healthcare is 815 euros. Once someone goes over that limit, the rest of their healthcare will be completely free. All citizens under 18 get free healthcare in Finland. In Finland, the average doctor's appointment only costs 30 euros and 20 cents. Finland has the 4th ranked public healthcare system globally, based off of US's news rankings.
The US private healthcare system is robust, and what this means is, by extent, the government in the US does not provide any money for citizens' medical bills.
Again, I think that depends on how you define those things. I would say that I do believe capitalism as a whole is preferable as the core mechanism. So ideally, I would like to see a society where we use markets as tools, but that there is extensive enough regulation that the decisions being made in those markets are made in a mostly democratic manner, because we are limiting the vast inequality that can come about from unfettered capitalism.
If most Americans want things like universal health care and free college, why don't we have them? Polls show that around 60 to 70% of Americans support universal health care. Even higher numbers support things like paid parental leave and lower college costs. So why don't we have them?
On average, corporations and wealthy interests spend over $4 billion per year lobbying Congress. That's more than $7 million per member of Congress every single year. Health insurance companies alone spend over $150 million annually to keep the system the way it is.
The result, the richest 1% of Americans own more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. The 3 richest men own more than the entire bottom half of the country. Finland's system is structured differently. Lobbying exists, but it's heavily regulated and publicly tracked. Their multi-party government means no single corporation can dominate policy, and their tax system is designed to redistribute wealth back to citizens through services, not just keep it at the top.
So when we ask why the US has more inequality than Finland, the answer isn't that America can't afford to do better. It's that the rules are written to protect those who already have the most. That's the difference between economic ideologies, and it's why your zip code, your job, and your family's wealth matters so much more in America than they do in Finland.
No, absolutely not. Trickle-down economics, in my opinion, is complete and total fraud. Based upon this supply side theory that basically says that, it's the supply side of the economy that dictates all economic outcomes for the most part, which there is some truth to that. The fallacy to me in supply side economics is that that is not directly related, or even I would argue intimately related in any way to the marginal tax rates. People who have an ideological agenda, who want low taxes, use as a rationale to justify their own personal preference. And there are no good arguments, in my opinion.
Are you happy living in the US?
Yeah, I'm happy living in the US. I think I have a great education, and I live in a very nice place, and I'm very fortunate to be in the place that I am.
Just got laid off. Lost my healthcare too, since it was tied to my first job. Unemployment covers maybe 40% of my rent.
I just got laid off. Kept my healthcare, obviously. Unemployment covers 60% of my salary.
I might go back to school, $30,000 a year. I'll be paying until I'm 50.
I'm going back to school for free. They actually pay me a small stipend to attend.
How does Finland afford this?
Higher taxes, but when you add up what Americans spend privately in healthcare, childcare, and student loans, the actual financial burden is roughly comparable. Except 30% of Americans have medical debt. In Finland, that number is basically 0.
So we're paying the same but getting less back?
You're paying private corporations, we're paying each other in taxes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
No, my pleasure. So.